So the second layer of positioning, this was supposed to be a one video where I explain positioning, but turns out that I have to make a series because it is multi-layered. The positioning tends to be multi-layered. So this is the part 2 of the positioning series, how to position yourself to create wealth. So if you haven't watched the first video, watch the first video and then come back to this one. Otherwise it will not make sense. And if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. I post one video almost every single day. And let's get started. So the second level of positioning will be positioning in terms of the industry and the region. And why this is important is because you will make money only proportionate to the industry that you go into. And a lot of the advice that comes from mainstream media is that you got to choose industry based on passion. And based on my experience, if you don't see any success soon enough in a particular industry that you're passionate about, the passion fades away very soon. And I'll give you an example. I know one of a very beautiful looking girl, Alexandra, one of my friends. She wants to become an actor, and she was told perhaps that if she just chooses what she does and she's very passionate about it, success will come naturally. And as a result, because it's a high risk industry, entertainment, and it's controlled by a few people, she did not assess the dynamics that are within that industry. And she took that advice and she went for it. And she's very passionate about acting. She keeps talking about acting. And as a result, she got very little work. She looks like an actress, by the way. So it's not like someone who doesn't look like an actress. And she's a great actress. She's done some work. But she ended up becoming a waitress. And it's because entertainment industry tends to be high risk. And it's not as big as some people might think. And so my point here is that success depends on what industry you go into, and how much money you make would determine how passionate you are about something. So it's not just because if you ask her, are you passionate about acting? She would say yes. But are you passionate about being a waitress? She would say no. But being a waitress is a part of her acting job, because she has to support herself from some medium. So she chose being a waitress. And that's the price she had to pay to pursue her passion. And if you ask her, do you want to do that? Then she would most likely say, no, I don't want to do that. So, but that just comes with that type of work. And so that's my point, is that success and wealth there is a high likelihood of building wealth if you get into the right industry, if you're positioned in the right industry. And it cannot be based on passion or interest. It has to be based on financial factors and risk factors. And we often forget about finance and risk when we are pursuing our passion. And we actually, counterintuitively, we end up in a position which we didn't even want. And I've experienced this myself with yoga. I've experienced this myself with dating. And passion can fade away when things get inconvenient. So if you have finance as the focus and if you're making good money, you will find the passion over time, because money creates a lot of excitement that I did not think it was capable of, again, because of the mainstream media, that you will never be happy even if you make money. That's not true. If you make enough money, you could almost justify any challenge, And I can create a whole scenario where I would say, would you do this? And you would say no. And I would say, would you do this if you get $50 million? And you would say, yeah, I'll do it. So ends justify the means. So it's okay if things are difficult as long as the reward is big enough. It's okay if it's risky as long as the reward is big enough. It's okay if it's not interesting as long as the reward is big enough. It's okay if it's painful as long as the reward is big enough. So the reward dictates whether you will be able to go through something or not. I just wanted to get this out of the way because passion, this tends to be the driving force of how people choose an industry. not financial factors. So you want to choose an industry that is high growth. And if there is a lot of activity in that industry, a lot of financial activity, and it's growing year on year, and it tends to have a bigger margin, if you position yourself in that industry, there's a high likelihood that you would be successful. And I used to think for a long time that, success is just based on the individual. But it's not the case. Sometimes there is nothing that you've done that's wrong, and you're doing everything right, and you're working hard and you're focused, but you're just in the wrong industry. And even if you work hard, even if you're passionate about it, even if you're focused, just like my friend Alex, she was very focused, you can end up in the wrong place because you're not in the right industry. You're not positioned in the right industry. And you have to define if financial success is something you want. This video series is about creating wealth. So we have to focus on the financial factors, and passion will come with that. So industry has to be high growth. The region has to be stable. Obviously, if you have a business these days in Israel or Ukraine, which are going through conflict, unfortunately, and Russia, success is going to be difficult. No matter how hard you work, the industry and the regional factors will come into play. And I was blind to it for a good part of my early life, and I chose industries based on passion. This is the reason I'm going on and on about it, is because I ignored these factors, and these factors are very crucial: geography and the industry. And I did notice that when I moved from, for example, India to Dubai, I experienced a whole surge of growth at such a rapid rate that I have never seen in my life in India. Now, I'm not saying India is a bad place. It's a good place. It has helped me a lot. It has given me a lot. But Dubai has a different frequency, and you tend to align yourself with that frequency of that region. And then I flew from Dubai to USA, and that had a completely different, scale. And my whole mind and thought process was different. Similarly, when I went to Europe, I had a different experience mentally. And that whole place has energy, different energy. So every region has got laws, regulations that will affect how you can perform. And some environments can be very restrictive and low growth. Some environments, the laws are such that you can create things and the whole environment favors you and pushes you. You could be successful anywhere, but there are certain regions and certain places where it's much easier. And similarly, there are industries in which it's much easier. For example, don't choose something that has a low margin, even if it's a high growth industry, but it's a very low margin. Avoid that, because things can happen in business that may not always go your way, and you want a wiggle room where you can make some mistakes and you can still keep going. And that happens when you have a big margin, because you are able to retain most of what you make, and you don't have that many costs, and you have very big margins. So those industries tend to have businesses that are stable and can go long term. So you are standing on a very stable foundation. If you position yourself in a region that's high growth, you position yourself in an industry that's high growth. I remember when Dan Pena once told me, he asked me, what's your goal? I said, I want to be a billionaire. And he said, go into healthcare. And my first reaction was, come on, syringes and needles. I'm not passionate about that stuff. I'm not interested in that stuff. And for a long time, I was in a dilemma. Am I doing the right thing? Am I in the right industry? Should I go to Hollywood? Should I become a musician, And I was really confused until I started to see some deals. And I was still confused until I saw a $25 million deal. And I met the owners of these business, $25 million business. And I saw the audited financials, all clean numbers, profitable, like assets and infrastructure, and things are going really well for these guys. They have a strong reputation. And when I saw that, I was like, wow, I want this. I like this. And it's the success that I was after, I realized. And that's the reason Hollywood is so attractive, is because of the image of success. The nice suits, the beautiful women, the glamour and all of that. But there's a lot of ugliness in that industry too, that you don't get to see. But on the contrary, healthcare that looks so boring, when you have a business that's very successful, that's booming with success, your view can change and your passion can change for it. So I started off being very resigned about healthcare, and then I moved and became, wow, this is amazing. I'm passionate about it. Now, all of a sudden, when the numbers are in front of me, I'm suddenly passionate about it. And it's because of the success element of it. So financial success is important, and choose the industry. You got to choose the industry based on financial metrics, not purely based on passion and interest. You may find interest as you become successful, as things are going in the right way. And, I've noticed another friend of mine, her brother, he wasn't doing very well. He was in Ukraine, and then he moved to United States of America. And in a couple of years' time, he had a Harley Davidson, he had a big mansion, and he had like trucks working for him, and he set up a business and it just boomed. And sometimes people can experience these type of surges of growth when they change the region. Same thing happened with me when I moved from India to Dubai. This surge happened. You could go down as well, but I'm just saying, because it's not always easy to move into a different location, please be responsible and look at the financial numbers and the money that you've saved up, etc. But this can happen, a surge of growth can happen when you're in a good economy. And so that's an important thing to keep in mind. And the other thing is, same thing could happen in an industry. You could be in an entertainment industry or restaurant industry, which is very difficult, or an airline industry, and suddenly you move into healthcare, which is much more stable, and you may find you're just getting successful. And that tends to happen quite a lot as well. People experience a high growth when they change their industry. So I want you to think in terms of industry when you want to position yourself. So lesson number 1, when you want to be a shareholder in the company, this is what I talked about in video number 1. In part 2, I'm talking about you want to position that company in an industry which is high growth and have high profit margins. And then your likelihood, you're setting yourself up for success. And that's today's video. And in the next video, I'm going to be talking about how do you further strengthen this position through identifying the right business model and the sector within that industry. And that's another layer of positioning. Power has many layers, right? And it's multifaceted. And positioning is multifaceted. You have a position in a company, then you have a positioning in the region, and you have a positioning in the industry. And all of these 3 are intersected with each other. And that's a very powerful zone that you're putting yourself in. And then you have to find the right business model and the right people, which is what I'm going to talk about in the next video. I'll talk to you soon.